Hey, welcome back. I'm Ferrikster, here to bring you some more Pokemon Go GBL battles. These battles are played in Psychic Cup, where all of your Pokemon need to have a Psychic typing. It's exactly what it sounds like. So I am opening with Victini. I built it specifically for this cup. I didn't have one before. Mine is bad. It's rank like 2,800 and something. It's like bad, and was expensive because I decided that I actually had to give it a second move. Some people were saying that you could run it with just V-Create. It is decidedly worse with just V-Create. Just gives it a little bit less flexibility. It's especially important to have a second move for the Victini mirror. Yeah, and it actually changes a lot of matchups where going for an overheat makes a big difference. So, in the back, to back it up, I have Malamar, which is a Pokemon that I had built already from Sylph Factions. It's been useful in a couple of those metas, sort of. And I also have a Great League non-Shadow Lugia, which is admittedly very hard to get, sort of. Like, you have to have someone trade you a research reward Lugia, and those have not been research rewards for a long time. So anyone that you did find, you'd have to do a low friendship trade, and it would have a not super probable chance of rolling down. Like, it is very difficult to acquire a Great League Lugia, comparatively. Like, there are harder things to get, but, you know, if you've had experience trying to get a Cresselia or a Tapu Fini that is low enough, Lugia is like that, but worse. Like, my Lugia is like a 4-1-5 or something, and it's already almost, like, you know, at 1,500 CP. So it definitely requires a decent amount of luck, and since all of them are going to be over 3 years old, they'll all have a 20% chance of going lucky on that trade. So I'm sorry, it's difficult. And I used an Elite TM to give it Aeroblast. I had done that some time ago. I used this Lugia when I was doing the Caleb Peng challenge several seasons ago, so I had it already lying around, and thought it would be interesting to use in this cup, so I'll bring it out here. So into this second game or so, I really like Victini in the lead. Two of the Pokemon that are strongest against the Victini lead, the things that you have to most look out for, are a Slowbro or Shadow Slowbro with Water Gun, and that's the only move that they'll be running in Psychic Cup. There's no reason to run Confusion, where it will be resisted or double resisted by nearly everything. and Claydol. Claydol is also pretty bad for Victini, but even the Mud Slaps don't really do damage so fast that you have to immediately swap out of them. So my two Pokemon in the back are built to kind of counter those, or at least, you know, to have some decent amount of play against those. And I'm pairing up Lugia with Malamar because Malamar has no fast move pressure to speak of, really. So, you know, if something ends with kind of an awkward amount of CP for Malamar to farm down, I could farm down with Lugia a little bit more easily. Exceptions to that would be things like Galarian Rapidash. Anything with a fairy subtyping is pretty difficult for both of my backline Pokemon to farm down, so, you know, definitely kind of got to work around that. And, yeah. So I lose this game, obviously, because I just got Shadow Balled there. But, yeah, let's just go into casting this next game. All right, so Victini into Gardevoir. This is a fantastic matchup. Like, Gardevoir can take out Malamar in like 5 charms. So coming out of this with either alignment or energy is going to be pretty important. They swapped their Victini, and I decided to no shield the first move. And they threw it kind of early, actually. So then they no-shield the Foul Play, which makes some sense because they're Victini, you know, because they're just going to be able to come out with Gardevoir and take me out in like 2 charms. I'm fine with this because it hasn't really provided a lot of useful farm. Gardevoir doesn't really build up much energy from charm. It's obviously a very slow charging move. So I'm going to build up to back-to-back. V-Create is a lot like Brave Bird in that throw it and it lowers your defense by 2 stages. And then they're going to swap out into Claydol. I have my Lugia left over in the back, so I kind of just team comped my opponent there, maintaining alignment, and that was a GG. All right, so the Victini mirror. So I definitely screwed this up a lot of times when I was first starting out, and it also harms me greatly that everyone else's Victini seems to be better than mine. Like, this one's at 1488, and mine's at like 1473. I'm missing so much stat product on mine just by not having enough CP. But you really just have to wait for them to throw a V-Create first before you throw anything. After that, they swap out to catch the V-Create on Malamar, but it does so much damage to Malamar also. And this Malamar is low enough that my Malamar can come in, and they are in foul play range, so that's when I'm going to bring it in. They go straight for the Hyper Beam. That is fine. It's going to take either 3 foul plays or 1 foul play and 1 Hyper Beam to take out my Malamar, or to take out any Malamar. So I was totally comfortable letting them Hyper Beam me. It's not like I needed to shield that Hyper Beam. Like, it's totally fine that it lands. And I managed to get out of that after a little bit of lag. I managed to get out with a decent chunk of energy left over. So that's going to pressure this Rapidash, or I guess they actually managed to farm me the whole way down. So that's actually not great for me. I'm going to send my Victini out. I am going to obviously have to shield this because I want to be able to throw both of my V-Creates. If this lands on Galarian Rapidash, it doesn't one-shot, but it does a lot, and they switch out to catch the next one on their own Victini. I think I misspoke earlier. I said V-Create lowered your defense by 2. It actually lowers it by 3 stages, but since you can only be lowered by 4 stages total, the first one lowers your defense a lot, and the second one barely lowers your defense, like, at all, considering that it had already been lowered. They're going to bring their Rapidash out. They are double resisting my Dragon Tails, and I decide to just no shield, let Lugia eat the Mega Horn. It's totally fine. I'm going to reach this Aeroblast, and I'm going to throw that. If you have a Lugia, by the way, and you don't want to toss Aeroblast onto it, you don't want the cost, there's an argument to be made for running it with Hydro Pump instead as the nuke, because that improves the matchup versus Bronzong. Because it's very difficult to take out Bronzong for Lugia. That's one of the hardest counters in this cup for Lugia. So another Victini mirror. This time I'm going to go for... I'm going to build up to over 100 energy, continue to throw some things, and then I throw a V-Create and they decide to no shield. I am going to win CMP on this because my Victini is attack weighted, so even though they have a tiny bit more CP, I have higher attack. And now I'm going to shield this V-Create and then swap out to catch the second one on my Lugia. They decided to bank it, though, so storing up that energy and swapping out, bringing their Malamar into me. I am okay with this. I'm not going to shield this foul play. It does a lot of damage. But it is 5 Psycho Cuts to the foul play, and then 5 to the next one, and 5 for the next one. It's just an even 5 for 5 for 5. So I was able to time that out where... I threw my second Sky Attack right before they reached their... right before they got the energy for their second foul play. So they got a little bit greedy, overfarmed a little, and now I'm going to send my own Malamar in to absorb the foul play from this Malamar, because it doesn't really hurt Malamar that much. They swap out into their Victini, and I am going to shield this V-Create. I definitely want to hold on to Malamar, and now I'm going to switch out into my own Victini. Just because, one, I'll be able to survive the V-Create a lot better, and also because, you know, my Victini's quick attacks will farm them down a lot faster. They bring out a Bronzong, which is fantastic for me. I'm going to be able to land this V-Create, and then I get taken out. It does not quite one-shot, but it's pretty close. I'm going to build up a little bit of extra energy, but I want to leave myself where I can still survive a foul play in case my opponent's Malamar reaches one. And looks like I got there first. I guess they swapped out with no energy left. But yeah, I'm just going to land this foul play and a match to take that game. And my Malamar is not quite in foul play range. It does a little bit less than like 45% damage. So I take that game. That is a GG. That was a 4-1 set. I get a shiny Attack Deoxys, which is nice. I actually already have a shiny Attack Deoxys, and it's got like good Great League stats. Not that I would use it there because it's extraordinarily bad. But, you know, maybe this one will be good for Ultra League. I don't know. I checked its stats; they looked fine, and powered looked at it for Great League. I don't know; it's definitely not good for Great League, but you know, maybe it'll be nice for Ultra. I don't know. And I go up to 2342. All right, so Victini into Shadow Gardevoir. This is again pretty good lead. They swap out into their own Victini, and I am staying in for too long. Like now I'm actually in a dangerous position. Like if this is a V-Create that they're throwing, then it's fine. But I shielded because I was worried that they might be throwing an Overheat instead. An Overheat would actually... well, I think Malamar would barely survive, but they would be able to farm down. At this point, I'm like, okay, so they've already lowered their defense. If they want to throw the Overheat at this point, I'm fine with it. And they don't. They throw another V-Create, which I can easily survive. So they're going to shield that next foul play, and they're trying to go aggressively for this farm down. And I know that they realize that I reached the move. They probably should have thrown theirs because I wouldn't have shielded it because, like, I think I have like 1 HP. So even if I had shielded, it probably would have killed through, and they would have been able to take alignment. But yeah, unfortunately for my opponent, my Malamar hung on with 1 HP, was able to maintain alignment. And that is pretty much a GG. Like, I'm going to build up to as much energy as I reasonably can. Now I'm going to throw this V-Create. It is going to massively drop my defense. And now I'm just going to throw this Overheat. Wasn't sure if it would KO. It definitely doesn't. You still need... You basically need to throw 2 V-Creates against the Claydol. But that's fine. I can just send out Lugia. I don't even need to shield this, even if it's a Shadow Ball. Super effective. It's fine. Lugia is... super thick. I mean, it's thick in Master League where you're used to seeing it. It's thick in Great League also, which is nuts. So I managed to take that game, and that is a GG. Next up again, 66 TM66 Victini Mirror again. Victini is a very popular lead. There's really only like 8 Pokemon in this meta. Lugia is not one of them, so I have like a relatively off meta team. Like this is a spicy team. As far as Psychic Cup is concerned, you know, spicy while still being functional. You can't just, you know, like spicy teams, they're like spicy food, right? Like a little bit of spice, it makes your dish, you know, flavorful and exciting. But a dish of like allspice, that's just like inedible. Like, you know, same thing with the team. Like, you know, you can run a team of like, you know, triple like insane spice, and it's like, this is unplayable. I'm trying, like, you know, I'm trying to make a team that's like slightly off meta, a little bit creative, but like, you know, functions. I'm sorry, this is the best I can do given the meta that we the meta that we have. So I think I got charmed down. Like my Victini got charm sniped, which has put me in like a super awkward position where I think I was like ahead earlier. Galarian Rapidash is going to come out, and I think at this point I'm actually super dead in this match. Like, I'm throwing this Sky Attack, and then I swap out into Malamar, which is like a death sentence. So, Galarian Rapidash learns Body Slam and Mega Horn. Mega Horn is double super effective against Malamar, not that, you know, it really makes a difference. Yeah, Fairy Wind charges so quickly, you get to Body Slam in 4... Fairy Winds, and you get to the oh my gosh, what's it called? And you get to the Mega Horn in 7. And even then, with like, you know, there's some residual energy left on both of those. It charges so fast. It seems like an interesting Pokemon to try out. Like, there's not a lot of other opportunities to use it. It's really not amazing in Open Great League. So in this mirror, they actually went for the Overheat. And then went for a snipe with their Claydol and almost KO'd my Victini. I swapped out in time to like save my Victini, but I probably should have thrown a move before swapping. Because it looks like I'm not going to end up getting to another one. I ended up shielding a Rock Tomb. Not sure if I would consider that a Rock Tomb bait. Or just, you know, if I shielded a Rock Tomb. I mean, it hits were super effective, but it doesn't really do that much to Lugia. So, yeah. I am debuffed now, and they're going to send out their Rapidash, and I'm fine with that. I'm just going to go straight for the Aeroblast again. I mean, I'm debuffed, so I don't know how badly they would want to shield. I know shield the Mega Horn. It hits for neutral and does like a decent chunk of damage. They no shield the Aeroblast, and that is going to take them out, and they bring their Victini out, and I am playing this all wrong. So when the Victini came out, I should have just immediately swapped my Malamar in, because Victini's moves are all self-debuffing. And they wouldn't really be able to safely throw V-Creates or Overheats, because they still have a shield. So, you know, they kind of be locked into throwing V-Create, which would lower their defense greatly. And I would have been able to Dragon Tail down afterwards if I had just, like, immediately swapped out to Malamar when Victini came out. Like, that's what I definitely should have done. Really good counting by my opponent. They wait until I am at the foul play, and then they throw their next V-Create. That is going to take me out. I send out my own Victini, but I'm not going to be able to throw 2 moves because, you know, you can't deny moves anymore. So I go down with a second V-Create loaded, and yeah, that's a GG. Well played by my opponent. I had a win condition there. I just did not play that matchup out correctly. All right, Slowbro in the lead. This is obviously terrible. I am going to immediately swap out to my Lugia. I've tried immediately swapping to Malamar, and that also works sometimes. Really, there's not a lot of, like, really cut and dry ABB teams. Like, it's difficult to predict what could be in the back, because a lot of things in Psychic Cup have some play against a lot of other things. It's kind of something that I like about it. So you don't know for sure that just because, you know, there's a Slowbro in the back and Slowbro is pretty bad against Malamar, you can't be certain that there will be like a Charm Gardevoir back there or something, which is like the Malamar counter. Like, teams aren't built like super straightforwardly in that way. So I managed to win Switch, and I'm able to get my Malamar out on the Slowbro. And I mean, if this is like Slowbro double fairy, then, you know, I guess that's fine. That's the thing that happens. I decide to shield the like I'm wary of that, so I'm shielding the Ice Beam. Also, like, the Ice Beam doesn't hurt that much, but it definitely would put Malamar into like farm down range. So I'm trying to just build up some excess energy, and I'm shielding everything just because Malamar outpaces Slowbro so much, and there's actually a Claydol back there, so this is fine. I am just going to throw the foul play. It does a pretty reasonable chunk of damage. Being careful not to let my opponent get like a full free move in, just throwing with good timing so that they only get one extra, like a piece of a fast move. And then I'm going to switch out to Victini. Wasn't trying necessarily to catch something, just trying to get to force this Claydol to unload its energy. And a Shadow Ball doesn't actually KO. I'm able to reach this this V-Create. It does enough to take out the Claydol. It lowers my defense so much that Slowbro gets almost no farm, and I'm easily able to reach this foul play with Malamar well before this Slowbro has enough energy to throw another move at me. Managed to take that game. That is a GG. Like, winning swap there was definitely helpful, but in retrospect, my Malamar also had play against both of those Pokemon. Alright, Victini into Malamar. So, on paper, I wouldn't really consider this a favorable matchup for Victini. The way I like to play it out, generally, I'm not, like, reliable about this, is to let them throw the foul play first, to throw up to, like, back-to-back V-Create, and then throw an Overheat. Because usually they no-shield, and that actually, like, KOs from there after they've taken all those quick attacks. I ended up just getting one shield, and I had a lot of energy on my Victini, but I let it go down anyway. I don't really know about that decision. I'm going to bring my Lugia out into their Malamar, and they are going to send out a Galarian Slowbro, or Galarian Slowking. So I decide to shield the first Shadow Ball. I'm definitely expecting this thing to just go, you know, straight for the nukes, because that's the only moves that Galarian Slowbro has. There's not really a bait move. It's nukes or nothing. So I'm going to let the second one go, because I don't want to end up with, like, 0 shields, and in my mind, this Slowking is in, like, reasonable looking farm down range. They don't throw anything, so I don't know if my opponent is lagging there or just doesn't care anymore, and there is a Galarian Slowbro in the back. So this is not ideal. I'm going to throw this foul play. They let it go, and it does that much damage, which is not, like, enough. And I'm going to shield this because Galarian Slowbro, similar to Galarian Slowking, where it's just, there's not really a bait move. It's just straight for the nukes. So I lost CMP on that, so I end up with like 0 energy. My opponent still has a shield. The only way to take out this Malamar would be with like a single Hyper Beam would be the most efficient way, so, you know, foul play bait into Hyper Beam. But there's no reason for them to, like, you know, shield anything if I were to throw, because I'm not going to... I'm like way far behind on this Malamar mirror. There was absolutely no way I was making this. There was no way I was coming back from that. So that was a 2 out of 5, which is like a negative set. Because, you know, I show these sometimes. I think it's fine. Right? Learn from my mistakes so that you can play better than me. Alright, here we go. Another Victini mirror. Very common lead. It's just, you know, it's a self-debuffing Pokemon, so it makes a lot of sense to run it in the lead. So I'm building up to over 100 energy, and my opponent is doing the exact same thing. They're waiting for me to throw a V-Create so that they can throw a V-Create afterwards and force me to shield it, and I throw an Overheat, and they let it go. Come out with a Galarian with a Shadow Slowbro with Water Gun, and I immediately swap out to my Malamar, and since they're staying in, I'm just going to spam out a Foul Play. Like, there's nothing in this meta that just absorbs a Foul Play and doesn't mind, right? Like, the best thing at absorbing Malamar's energy is a Malamar. So they swapped in their Malamar, and I decided to let this first one go because I'm like, you know, I still have 2 shields, and they have to Hyper Beam me to take me out, and if they do Hyper Beam me, I'll be able to come in with Victini, and I'll be able to go for a CMP tie and throw this Overheat, and I think this should take out Malamar, but it actually doesn't. Malamar barely survives. So I'm like, alright, this is fine. Alright, I'm going to let this go because I still have 2 shields, and I can just come out with Lugia, Dragon Tail down the Malamar. And, I mean, I have 2 shields left against this Slowbro. I would actually survive this Ice Beam just fine, but, you know, I'm trying to, you know, climb. I'm in a race to get to Legend faster than some other people. Myself and Smash King, a fellow streamer and a member of the Elite TMs, the Sylph faction that I'm on, are racing Arrow and Panic, 2 other streamers / content creators. So, you know, trying to climb, right? At least with some degree of reliability here. All right, Victini into Malamar. So I let the first move go, and this time it's a Hyper Beam, and that is fine. I am going to just throw this Overheat. They shield, and I build up to a V-Create and then try to swap out, and my swap doesn't really work that well, but I finally am able to get out of there, so, you know, thank goodness it finally worked. Switch into my own Malamar because that's the best thing at absorbing Malamar's energy is just another Malamar. So I'm going to shield the second Foul Play. I don't know what my opponent has back there, and now I'm just going to go straight for the Hyper Beam. They shielded my last nuke. Thankfully, they let this one go. If they had shielded that, I would have felt kind of bad. They're going to come out with a Victini of their own. I am totally fine with that. I'm just going to spam out the Foul Play because I'm not planning to shield here. I make it to my next Foul Play, and I decide, you know what, since they're letting me throw this, I'm actually going to shield this and throw my Foul Play. It's not like there's too many other things that would come out that would, you know, be able to farm me down at this point. Like, I'm in an inconvenient height for that. Send out my Lugia trying to go for a snipe, but really I'm obviously going to end up eating a V-Create, but Lugia doesn't really mind because it's just that thick. There is a Slowking in the back. I am fine with that. Galarian, Slowbro, and Slowking are not water types, so they don't resist fire. So all I needed to do was land that Sky Attack, and since I have a V-Create already loaded on Victini, they take me out with that, and I can just bring in Victini, throw this V-Create. That is going to be a GG. I might just take that game. So yeah, how have you been? All right, next up against DJ Seal. Another Victini mirror. So I don't remember if I play this one out the same way that I usually do, but I have noticed that as we've like progressed and as like the meta has been more figured out, people are more and more likely to build up to like 100 energy before throwing anything. So they throw their first V-Create, and then I throw my first one. I was hoping maybe I would win CMP there, but I didn't, and that's fine. I'm just going to shield this, and, you know, my V-Create will fire or it doesn't. I build up to almost a second one. So now I'm at back-to-back. Or it was almost at back-to-back. They shield, and then, I don't know, they definitely reached their V-Create, but I guess decided not to throw it. Maybe they thought they could farm me down the whole way. Throw my second V-Create, that manages to take them out. My defense is all the way down, so whatever comes out won't get that much farm. It is a Malamar. They get 2 Psycho Cuts. It's one of the things that's sometimes good, sometimes bad against Malamar. It has absolutely no fast move pressure. So little fast move pressure that even when your opponent is like dropped their defense so much, still not able to get to the thing. But yeah, they're going to bring out their Galarian Rapidash. I'm okay with this. I'm going to let this move go, whatever it is. Turns out to be a Body Slam bait, and that's fine. This one is too early to be a Mega Horn, so obviously don't need to shield that. And this one also, I think, is like 1 away from possibly being a Mega Horn, so I'm just going to let this Body Slam go also. Throw one more, and I am finally, after all of those Body Slams, I'm finally at my Air Blast. Just goes through, takes out my opponent, the Malamar comes in, gets very little farm, and they resign the game before my Malamar can come back in, because my Malamar is loaded, so that is a GG. I should take that game. Alright, here we go. Victini into Malamar. So we've seen this one before. I'm probably going to play it out the same way, but, you know, sometimes I've been scarred by someone shielding my overheat, so I throw V-Creates anyway. Also, I don't want to become too predictable, right? You know? So they actually throw their move and then swap out into a Victini, which is fine. So, I mean, I've done a decent amount of quick attack damage, enough quick attack damage that even if this Victini didn't debuff itself, it would still have been in, like, foul play range. I know I'm going to lose CMP, so I'm not going to bother throwing my second foul play. I'm just going to, you know, build up some excess energy. So I built up to back-to-back foul play, and now I'm going to throw my first one. I assume they let this go, and they do. So I have a foul play loaded. They come in with their Rapidash, and I should have built up to a Hyper Beam before throwing this, but I saw the Fairy typing and just was worried that it would be a Gardevoir and would charm me down. All the same, this has worked out fine. I'm able to reach a second foul play anyway. This is going to go through. If they decide to shield it, which they probably will, then that's unfortunate for me. I know they have like a decent chunk of energy left. I'm going to send in Victini. I'm just going to spam out this V-Create. They decide to shield, and then I spam out my second V-Create, and they swap in and catch it on their Malamar. So this is fine. The V-Create does enough that I can come in with Lugia and just farm down. I decide to shield the foul play here because even though Megahorn does slightly more, I think it's just more reliable for me to shield that. That way I know I'm going to take a Megahorn, but I don't have to worry about, like, you know, trying to shield a Megahorn and getting baited with a Body Slam, because if, you know, if they bait Body Slam and land a Megahorn after I get hit with a foul play, then that would take me out. Whereas if I just shield the foul play, they're forced to throw the Megahorn, and it's just a lot more expensive. It's just they don't have enough turns to get to enough moves if I just shielded the foul play. So I went for the reliable, useful shield instead of possibly shielding a bait. Alright, I missed who swapped first, but I imagine I didn't swap Lugia into a Rapidash, so yeah, I probably lost the lead, swapped in my Lugia, they swapped in their Rapidash, went straight for the Megahorn, that's fine. I survived that, plus a Body Slam, and I'm able to throw this Sky Attack bait. They decide to shield, that's fine for me. I'm able to reach a second Sky Attack, so this one is at least going to do pretty reasonable damage. Might bring them low enough where they're in Quick Attack down range, and yeah, I would say that's Quick Attack down range for sure. So I'm obviously going to come back in with Victini and Quick Attack down. They went for a Megahorn, but barely didn't survive my last Quick Attack, so weren't able to throw it. That is highly unfortunate for them. Even throwing the Body Slam would have been better in getting some chip damage, but I have definitely had some of my Pokemon faint at the wrong times. Also, there is a Shadow Gardevoir in the back. I just need to throw this foul play, and for whatever reason, I didn't throw it. And I 100% needed to, because since I didn't, I need to throw a V-Create here. They also get to a move, which is honestly fine. Like, that part is okay. They throw the Shadow Ball, that is fine. I'm going to throw my V-Create, and I undercharge a little bit, hoping that maybe if I do this perfectly, I'll be able to get one Quick Attack in at the expense of no health. But yeah, I super botched that game. Like, I should have thrown an Overheat before swapping, or thrown something before swapping in Malamar. And yeah, you know, like throwing the foul play like I'm supposed to also helps, because that hits Gardevoir for neutral. It does a ton of damage. So with that 4 out of 5 that I botched and could have had a 5 out of 5 to go up to 23 and some numbers. Kind of missed that. But yeah. Sorry, I'm a little tired today, so maybe I'm slightly out of it. Also, yeah, you know, releasing Psychic Cup when there's only a day and a half left, guys. I'm trying my best, all right? Anyway, don't forget to do the things you know you're supposed to do at the ends of videos. Even if you didn't like this video, like it anyway, all right? I'm sorry. You know, sometimes my content's going to suck, all right? You're just going to have to deal. I'll see you guys. I'll do better next time.